Welcome everyone to episode 84 of Raw Sport. And boy, oh boy, do we have a show for you guys today. Big one today, Mr. Rick. We have a very special guest, the man himself, Mr. Spencer Brown. Spencer, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great, mate. It's cold, miserable, wet. As usually is in England at this time of year. It's horrible. But we're going out to Saudi next week. We've got three good fight, or four actually. Four. I've got another kid, a Saudi kid. He's on next week as well, and we really like him as well. We think he can do great things, you know. And one of the first Saudi kids that we sort of took on and nurtured. He's trained by a good trainer. In fact, Duran's out there at the moment with him. Roberto Duran's out there with him.
I saw the video.
What's the kid's name, Spence?
It's Mo Alakal.
Mo Alakal.
He's had 2 wins. He's only a young kid. He's only 19, but he's doing very, very well. But they promoted him. They liked him. They promoted him and put him on the show on the undercard. So fantastic.
Awesome. There you go. So, well, tonight we got a very special show because you got myself in Australia. We got Spence in the UK. Sorry?
A real legend.
and we got the legend himself, Mr. Rick Glazer, as well, calling in from New York, from the States. So we got an international show today. Spence, I'm going to get straight into it. In the industry, you're known as the man, as the architect behind the Saudis entering boxing. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what everyone knows. Everyone in the industry knows that and says that about you. How did this journey start? Like, how'd you meet the Prince? Number one. Number two, how'd you get him intrigued into boxing? Because you've changed boxing for forever now. You've gone down the history books.
Yeah, look, I don't know whether it was a bit of a fluke at first. A guy got hold of Tyson who owned a water company, believe it or not. He owned a water company. Got hold of Tyson and said to Tyson, "Look, we want to meet you. We've got something big for you." So Tyson there'd been offers that never gone through. You know all about the Anthony Joshua fight that never happened, and Deontay Wilder pulled rank on it all and got him back into the ring legally. So we met this group. We met him in Morecambe, in Tyson's hometown, in the football club. And Tyson said, "Look, I'll leave it with Spencer, leave it with him." We had good discussions. They told us they wanted to fight Francis Ngannou, which we were a bit shocked about. They told us about a guy called Turki Al-Sheikh we'd never heard of. And get back to us. You've got 10 days. You've got 2 weeks to get back to us. Not a word, nothing. And so we just put it down as one of them, what things that happen in boxing all the time. You get offers and they never lead to anything. Anyway, about 3 months later, Rick's laughing there. 3 months later, I'm sitting in the lounge and I just spoke to Tyson, funny enough, and we're just seeing what we're going to do next. And we were talking about it, and I got a phone call. "I'm outside your house." I said, "Who's outside my house? Who are you?" We're Turki Al-Sheikh's men, and the guy was called Rico. He's a football agent, one of the best football agents in the world. So I asked him what I couldn't understand what he was doing here. Anyway, "I need to speak to you." I brought him into my house. They sat down and basically went through that they wanted Tyson to fight Francis Ngannou. I rung Tyson. He said, "Too late. We're moved on to other things." So with that instance, he was a bit upset, to say the least. And he was told by Turki Al-Sheikh, "Do not leave the town. Do not leave his house until you've done the deal."
Wow.
So I put them up for 4 days, please, to be honest. And they stayed at my house for 4 days.
That was a good investment. You could have ate your refrigerator out of house and home. That was a good investment.
Well, they had you know what was funny? They had no clothes. They and the guy Rico was just done a football deal in Manchester with the Tenerife goalkeeper who was with him at the time. So it was very surreal. It's a crazy story. Anyway, next thing, in the end, Tyson said, look, go into it a bit more. I said, I've got to go to New York and meet Turkey Al-Sheikh. He said, go there with my full blessing. He said, but you'll have to pay your own flights and you'll have to pay your own expenses. So it's down to you. So I said, okay. I jumped on a plane to New York. Within 2 hours, I'd met Turkey Al-Sheikh's number 2, which is a guy called Dr. Ikam. Dr. Ikam, we met and we stayed there. I think we got the deal done. I stayed there for 3 or 4 days. As soon as I met Turkey Al-Sheikh, we got the deal done. Me and Dr. Ikam done it in a street in New York. I think it was 5th Avenue we done the deal. We done the deal, and that was it. That was the start of it. And then the next thing, Turkey, that was his first and only fight. That's the only fight that was going to take place. That was it. One off. End of story. And then he said to me, what do you think would be the next good fight? Who do you think? I said, there's only one fight, and that's Tyson against Usyk. Can you get hold of Usyk? So I rung Usyk's manager and Egas. I rung him. I said, can you get to New York? He said, I'm in LA. Not really, but I told him the story. He didn't really believe it either. Anyway, I talked him into it. He flew down the same night and we went into the Four Seasons. I think we went into a little room, went up into the lift into the Four Seasons. An hour later, we come out doing the biggest deal in boxing.
Wow.
So, and then from there, I introduced everybody in. I introduced George Warren and Frank Warren.
Oh, you had to put George's name in there. Oh my God.
Good old pal. So, and then later on down the line, things were getting bigger and bigger. So we then introduced Eddie in because he wanted to do business with Anthony Joshua. So I introduced Eddie in. And then Ben Shalom. And it's blown out of all proportion, hasn't it? It's just gone crazy. So that's the story of it. That's the true story.
Wow. So Turkey Al-Sheikh done 1 fight, 2 fights. Then he's come in, he's made peace with everyone. All of a sudden, we're one big happy family.
Yeah, well, you know what happens with happy families.
What's that?
Oh, something always goes wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, getting Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn to actually I'm not going to call them friends, but to co-mingle, that was amazing in itself.
Yeah, and you know what? It was all his own. It was all Turkey Al-Sheikh. It was all his own doing. It was all his own thought process. Nobody even guessed he would do that because at the time, you can imagine getting them into one room together was like near enough impossible. I don't want to work with him. I don't want to work with him. Don't forget, this is a long, drawn-out
process
episode. You know, with the families, the boxing families have been at war for forever. You know, when I say war, I mean, putting promotions on the same night. It's a natural thing. And Turkey Al-Sheikh went, right, I'm going to sort this out. You're going to be working together. You're going to be working with me together. And sort of like from the first meeting, when we all sat round, it seemed to have worked.
Wow.
It just, they seemed to work. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of money in it, so why wouldn't it work? Money changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, but very few people, like Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn at that level, say, "Okay, let me put my pride aside," and for the sake of money and stuff, because sometimes their egos are bigger than their brains.
I totally agree with you. I mean, nobody's got a bigger ego than Eddie Hearn.
Oh no!
But he's a very astute man.
He's replaced Donald Trump and Don King.
Correct. He's a clever man. He looks the part. He talks the part. I think he saved British boxing at one stage. I really do. And But then you go back to Frank, who's an old war horse, who's been through everything. You know, he's been through the trenches, through the wars. He's absolutely come back now. He's bouncing, and I think that I think he's sort of took over as the number one player now. That's what I think. He's probably the number one player. Worldwide, Eddie. You know, I do a lot of business with Eddie in Australia. And then there's a guy called Mick Francis out in Australia who's doing an unbelievable job. I mean, if you see his last fight, 3 people run the promotion. It's incredible. And Mick, you know, he's been working with Eddie for a while, and he's got some. He's brought on some unbelievable fighters in J. Oppenheimer.
Right. I know Mick.
Yeah. Likewise, yeah.
Good guy.
Likewise, yeah.
Mick's a good boxing guy.
Spence.
Yeah, he's a good boxing guy. He's a straight man as well, straight player.
Spence, let's talk about the business.
Yeah.
How the business has evolved since Turkey's come into the picture. We've seen the investment in DAZN. We've seen the investment into Ring Magazine. All positives for the sport. We've seen the globalization of boxing outside just the US, the UK becoming an unbelievable hub for boxing, Saudi Arabia becoming a hub for boxing, less US shows, more blockbusters in the US, something we've been talking about a lot recently in our recent shows. There's been a lot of talk about TKO, which is Ari Emanuel, Dana White, then getting into the mix with Turkey. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the current situation.
I mean, me personally, I think it's a good thing.
Tell us more.
I think there'll be more work for boxers over there. There'll be more work for Mr. Rick Glazier, matchmaking and doing stuff. There'll be, you know, it's worked in England. You know, you know, people going against each other has worked. I mean, I went to a show at the weekend. Now, so we had a show at the weekend. Obviously, you saw the Chisora fight. It was so that there was I think there was 12,000 people there. A new stadium, right out of Manchester, hard to get to, expensive, but they still came and they turned out, and that's it's a lot of people to come to a show like that. This week, Eddie Hearn's got a show on there. The only thing that worries me is saturation. That's the only thing that worries me is the saturation. Because after the week after that, you know, there'll be another show. There'll be, I don't know, there's a lot of small hall promoters here. I just think that after the show at the weekend, I was so impressed with it. It was a different level show. Eddie's got to now come out this week and counter it with an even better show. But you can't keep selling 12,000 tickets a week. It's impossible. Boxing is not that. I think Turkey told me that boxing was the 14th biggest sport in the world, and he's took it from 14 to now 7. So for that sport to grow, we need Dana Whites. We need these people getting involved, because I can see the American market is, for us, it's a little bit dead and it's a bit stagnant. And if you can bring it round to how we brought it round, where there's fights on every couple of weeks and there's promoters, you know, fighting each other for spots and getting different fighters on board, it's if they can do that in America, you know, it's gonna just blow up. Boxing's very fashionable over here. If it can be fashionable again in America, it'd be phenomenal. The trouble is you've got the big sports out there. The American football must be it's like soccer over here, but we at different times. But you know, most of our soccer's played in the day, but you've got the baseball. Even soccer to a certain extent is done very well out there now, isn't it, Rick?
Yes,
you're doing very well.
Yeah, very well. It's the fastest growing high school sport in America. In my state, lacrosse is the fastest growing sport, but in America, soccer is is the fastest growing sport for the youth, and that helps the TV ratings and everything else. I think it's great, but I'll tell you where boxing's gone wrong in the United States. Not enough fights that people want to see, and that was caused by Al Heyman. That started basically before he even had PBC. That started when he was working with Golden Boy, and they were putting on too many fights that the public didn't want to see, and paying way too much, and it forced HBO to basically leave boxing. That formula doesn't work. People want to see a fight because they don't know who's going to win, is part of the reason they're watching. If they know who's going to win, then what's the sense of watching? So
that's I'm glad you said that, because what changed in England, it had to change, and it will have to change in America. Turkey walked in and demanded 50-50 fights. Okay, I'll put you on. I'll pay you money, but you must have a 50-50 fight.
I can't agree more. But he paid Danny Garcia Al Heyman, when he was still with Golden Boy, $1.5 million to fight a guy named Rod Salka, who got knocked out in, I don't know, 1 or 2 rounds, who everybody knew was going to get knocked out. It was such a bad fight going in that Mauricio Suleiman would not sanction it because Danny Garcia was the junior welterweight champ. Actually, Salka was really a 130-pounder, and Mauricio refused to sanction the fight. That's how bad it was. The Boxing Commission, believe it or not, sanctioned it when I was shocked. But the point is that this is the kind of crap that they were putting on. And it was terrible. And it's ruined boxing. Al Heyman has been the ruination. I've said it many times. Al Heyman has been the ruination of professional boxing in America. And he tried to be the ruination of boxing in New England, in England too, in the UK, but they ran him off. Okay? And
yeah, he did get run off, and look, it was
that fine gentleman that from Ireland who lives in Dubai was part of the deal to run him off, which was a good thing.
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to look forward. I'm not going to look too much in the past. I'm going to look forward, because that's all gone now. But that was happening in England as well. But now I just hope it doesn't worm its way back in, where everybody gets easy fights, and we know we go there and we go, well, this will last 2 rounds. We don't want that anymore. We're going to try and make as many 50-50s as we possibly can. And you saw at the weekend, it was a very 50-50 fight, although Chisora, I personally thought Chisora was probably best I've seen him for 10 years.
Otto Ling was shot. He had no legs at all. I mean, those things were rubber.
But 42, and one was shot. But what a good fight!
It was a great fight.
A great fight. So,
I mean,
I'm not gonna
Spencer,
say too much about
Spencer. You take Virgil Ortiz and Madarov coming up here on February 22nd. And people in the boxing business, people like myself, are 50-50 split who's going to win the fight. You can't get better than that.
Listen, and Madarov is a great fighter. Fight anybody. And Ortiz, I'm so pleased it's made. I think it's probably the fight of the night.
Right.
That one for me. I like Zhilei Zhang against Ajit Caballo. I manage Ajit Caballo. But I think it's going to be a belt. It's just class all the way down, isn't it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Class all the way down.
I actually like Caballero in that fight. I think his ring IQ is so much higher, and I think that he's what I call a smooth operator in there. And I think that he boxes very well. His ring IQ is great, and I think that's going to carry him in that fight.
I think he's the most underestimated heavyweight in the world at the moment. And I think you're gonna see the dawn of a new champion as well in Hamza Shiraz.
No question. There's no question about it that he wins.
It's not just his boxing ability. It's not his physical prowess. He's a gentleman. He's what we need in the game, and he's just I would say he's one of the nicest boxers I've ever met in my life. So I'm just hoping and praying he will win that fight and go on to big things. And I'd like to see him, I'd like to see him fight. I think I'd like to see him fight Canelo.
Wow.
That's what I'd see him fight,
Interesting.
yeah. And I think he's 2 more fights, he'll be good enough.
Yeah, he'd be great for boxing, and Adames can't sell a ticket.
Exactly, but this is what we're up against as well. Joe Cordina. We've got a kid here called Joe Cordina.
Yeah,
and he deserves to be up there, and we're going to put him back up there. He's just signed on with us, but they don't want to fight him. I don't know why, but nobody wants to fight him.
Interesting.
No, it's very strange that he's moved up a weight. He got beaten by Kakachi last time, and he's struggling to get a fight. It's
interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Spence. I'm going to be a bit selfish here. Being an Aussie, I have some questions. What's Gold Star's vision for the future in Australia? You've been supporting Mick Francis' cards. We've seen the Gold Star logo around on all these fight promos.
Yeah.
What are you doing down
So
under, mate? Talk to us.
So we've stuck some money in with Mick, just to help it along the way, just support him. So look, I was brought in by Mick. He'd had an original deal with Eddie Hearn. Eddie's all over the world. He's very, very busy. They brought me in, and I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you a quick story about Jai Opetaia. So I really liked Jai Opetaia. I saw him. I saw what he'd done to the kid over here, Jason. And Jason used to box for us in the unlicensed circuit. And then he started sparring with Tyson. But he's a good kid. And Jay come over and put him on his ass and whatever. We knew he was talented. So I sat there with Turkey Al Sheikh, and he'll tell you the story, Turkey. We sat there, and I said, I really like a kid here. I want you to see him. Put him on. And he sat there, and like he usually does, he went, I like him. I like this kid. So he said, can you get him? I said, yeah. He's not got a fight. He said, who's he promoted by? I said, Eddie Hearn. And at the time, he weren't that keen on Eddie. Right? They weren't friends at the time. They were, they were.
I'm still not keen on Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said, go and get him. Let's put him on the next show.
Yeah.
We did. He knocked the kid out in the first round. And then he really liked him. He really took a shine to him. So he's backed him on the next fight, which is life-changing money for the kid. He'd never seen money like this before. And then obviously we had this big fight in Australia, and I asked Turkey to sponsor it, and he had no problem at all, no hesitation. Yeah. If it's for Jai, I'm in.
Fantastic.
I want to support you putting boxing on in Australia. That was his words. I will support you putting boxing on Australia. And then I said, what about Germany? And he said, I will support you putting boxing on in Germany. So that was Ajit Kabayel, and that was Jai Opetaia. We've got some love. We've got some. Justice Hooney's very, very underrated.
Yeah, but he fights too much. Hooney's problem is he fights too much like a puncher, and he's not a puncher. That's a problem.
Correct. But he's sorted that out. He's got a new trainer, and he's brought his boxing more into it. Because look, there's one person that I feel sorry for in all this, and that's Kevin Lorena. Kevin Lorena should have had Hooney out there in the last round. Yeah. And again, Kevin Lorena is the Bridgerweight champion of the world. Kevin Lorena put Daniel Dubois on his ass twice.
I know. Almost ended in one round. Yeah.
Almost ended in one round.
So Kevin Lorena is a hard luck guy.
He's a hard luck guy. But I've made it my mission to take that hard luck away from him, because I think he deserves it. He's a lovely guy. He's a real true gentleman of boxing. And I really want to help him. And I've took a management role with him. But even I've got contacts everywhere and fights everywhere. Even I'm struggling. Nobody wants to fight at Bridgerweight. Nobody wants to fight him. Whether they should have ever brought in Bridgerweight anyway, I don't know whether that was a mistake.
Don Majeski thought of the idea of a 225-pound weight class. I guess they made it 224, and Mauricio came up with the name Bridgerweight. I don't know where he got that from, but
yeah, I mean, I spoke to him, and I spoke to him the other day, and I just said, this is all great and marvelous, but there's no fights out there. Nobody's interested. The promoters just look at it as like, they don't even look at it. It doesn't sell tickets. I mean, we had one offer in 6 months, and that was to go and fight in a war-torn country. We had to get off a plane and go and jump on a train to get there. So,
wow,
it wasn't great. And now I'm actually gonna go and speak to Turkey Al Sheikh to see if we can put a Bridgerweight fight on, because there's just no activity in the division at all. None.
Right.
Yeah.
None.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
However, whether that was overkill and whether that was a good idea.
There you go. Last one from me. Actually, one more after this one. One last one. Sorry.
No.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
Don't forget to ask somebody. Don't forget to ask Spencer's got a young fighters coming up.
We'll get there. Spence, DAZN acquired Foxtel in Australia, which is a huge media company for $3.4 billion in Australia. It's been reported Turkey has purchased or acquired 13% of DAZN for $1 billion. That's been reports swirling around. Top Rank is just announced, ESPN's in it. There was an article yesterday that their deal's pretty much done by July. And the two organizations that were in the mix were DAZN and HBO Max. Are we going to see more from DAZN in these two markets? Because in the UK, they're known a ton for boxing. Outside the UK, not so much.
Look, the actual premier channel in the UK is Sky. That's what we all watch. That's what we subscribe to. And that's run by Ben Shalom. So I don't know how long Ben Shalom's contract. He might run for another 2-3 years. I'm not too sure, but it's not so strong on Sky anymore. I think it will be. Ben needs to put a lot of work in, but it could be back there again. It could be, but I'll be honest with you. I think DAZN has just swamped everything. They've swamped everything. They've basically played a master move here, because look, if Frank Warren's putting 20 shows on a year, he's going into Europe a little bit. I'm sure he will be going into Europe. He's going to go into America with 5 shows. So I believe. I'm not too sure. That's what somebody's told me. But he's going to operate all over the world. So then you've got Eddie already operating in America. He's putting 20 shows on in England. So, there's 40, 50 shows going to go on in England. Then you've got Europe. You're probably talking 50 shows. Wow. Sky, I don't know how many they've done last year. Probably 8 to 10 shows.
Who?
Sky.
In the end, the market is going to end up on DAZN, isn't it? It's simple. Mm-hmm. They're going to be able to watch boxing, all day if they want, all day, every day, on DAZN. You can flick on and watch whatever you want. You can watch a fight from 10 years ago. Sky don't have that anymore. It's they're putting an all women's boxing show on. I don't know. Does it work? I'm not sure.
Turkey's also acquired Ring Magazine. We've already seen a huge change in the level of reporting, the output on social media, the events. They had the big awards night that really gave boxing that ESPY feeling that was really missing, the night of all nights. What else can you tell us is coming from Ring Magazine that many don't know?
Well, I think this is very interesting. Now, Ring Magazine could end up being a major player in it as well. Don't forget, it's got its own belt. So Turkey has its own belt now. He's, we've seen what he's done with everything else. He's the game is what we call in England game as a pebble. So he will take it to lengths I've never seen, and we saw this with the Canelo thing. He's willing to dig deep, very, very deep. Now the Ring Magazine's an institution. He's bought an institution, it's really an American institution. Although we do get it in England, but it's a big thing but I think now you'll find that a lot more fights will be for the Ring Magazine title. I think that he will be promoting his own fights under the Ring Magazine. I think you'll find that. That's going to be very
the first one is May 3rd in Times Square, New York. Yes,
exactly. Where he's talking about these crazy places, the pyramids, Alcatraz.
He must have
these crazy places. He's already done it in England. He took over some of the most historical places for the press conferences. I know. Yesterday they were just picking they're doing a media tour around England for the Conor Benn Chris Eubank fight. It doesn't seem to be slowing down. It doesn't seem to be slowing. It just seems to be gaining more traction, more motion. And if you know him, he's the funniest guy in the world. He's a very kind man, but he's extremely clever and not to be underestimated.
Yeah, I met him at the Virgil Ortiz fight back August 10th. I was introduced to him, and I love his enthusiasm. How he throws punches at ringside while he's watching the fights. I love it.
Honestly, Rick, when you meet him, he's a real gent. He really is.
He is.
And
I met him.
And like I say, he's very kind. He's been very kind to all of us. And when he says something, he means it, and he sticks by his word, which is quite refreshing, isn't it, in boxing? It's very refreshing.
Yeah, that's that's the way I am. I'm the same way. If I say something, it's not I was kidding. I didn't mean what I said. I mean every word I say, and if I can't deliver, I'm going to tell you I can't do up front. I can't do that. So, I'm very forthright.
Spence, now I'm digging a bit deeper here because
you're digging deep.
The Ring Magazine, the Ring title, right?
Yeah.
Is that the pathway forward to the boxing league?
In my opinion, yes.
There you go, Rick.
Can't say too much, but obviously, and look, when you've got powerhouses joining each other like that, I mean, it's an unstoppable thing, isn't it? I mean, you can't. Dana White, I can only. Where he's come from is incredible. I mean, what a journey! He's just, he's like a superhero of the combat sports world, isn't he?
Absolutely. Hate him or like him, he deserves the respect.
And he's got something about him that not many people have. He's got something about him that allures you to him.
So me and Rick had. Sorry, Steve. Go on.
Turkey will be the quietest man in the room. He will be the most alluring man in the room. He'll be the one you concentrate on. And it's the same as Tyson Fury, same as Dana White, same as Eddie Hearn, same as Frank Warren. They've all got something there that allures you to them. Same as Rick. You get allured to them. I don't know what it is. Animal magnetism, probably, but I've got to say that you do get allured to these people, and they command the room.
My nickname's the Animal. My nickname's the Animal. So there you go.
There you go. I was right. So certain people in this world.
Here's a great line, Spence. Here's a great line by my wife. So I says, honey, when we had met Turkey Al-Sheikh in Vegas at the fights, he said, when I shook his hand, he shook my hand, and I says, you've just met Turkey Al-Sheikh, the most powerful man in boxing. He says, yes, but he doesn't realize that he was talking to Rick Glazer.
I would imagine, Rick, that you will get a phone call at some stage. 1,000,000%. You'll get a phone call because everybody does. Everybody gets a phone call. I mean, I see who's coming to my house today. Roberto Duran's coming. He's got Roberto Duran over here training some fighters. You know, he's coming later. So
I don't need to do business with Turkey El Sheikh. I only have to do business with you.
Yeah.
So there you go. Now, our man here wants to ask you about your prospects. Ask the question there.
Do you have any up and comers there, Spence?
Stop! Stop! Don't ask Spence about his fighters' sex lives, please.
Right. Look, there is a couple I've got. Yeah, and there's one I'm looking at the moment, and he's from America. He's a young boy, and he's trained by a very, very well-known ex-world champion.
Andre Ward?
No.
Okay.
I bet you won't get this. I'll give you 3 guesses. Got 4 guesses. Go on. He's a
So
heavyweight.
who the fighter is?
All heavyweight.
He's a what?
So he's trained by an ex-fighter who won the world title, heavyweight, a small heavyweight though, and this kid I think could be extremely, extremely good.
Finelli Felice Jr.
No, but he's on the list in a minute. No.
Wow.
Look, I tell you who's trained by. Who's he trained by? He's trained by Antonio Tarver.
Oh, Tarver.
Yeah,
I don't know the kid though.
I've got. We're going to enter into an agreement with Finelli, Felice Jr. He sparred Tyson Fury. Was very, very impressed with him. I kept telling everybody about this kid, but you'll see him. I think he's going to drop into.
Did you meet Stephen Hyde?
No.
Have you talked to him on the phone?
No, not yet. I've got a couple of English kids as well, but we'll see. But I really like Finelli as well. I think Finelli can be a world champion. He's 6'3". He's got his arms are like, he's like an orangutan.
Yeah, he's got very fast hands, very fast hands, and a high ring IQ.
Defensively, fantastic.
Yeah, high ring IQ.
And he wants to do the business. He wants to do the business. We've got a couple of Africans out there with good fighters, heavyweights. I've got a heavyweight in England who I'm just signing tomorrow. I can't mention his name because somebody else will go and nick him, offer him more money, like they always do. But he's very good. He will get onto the world scene. He won last week. And they just keep coming through. They just keep coming through and through. And like this week, we've got Joe Parker. I work with Joe Parker all the time. If Joe Parker wins this week, it'll be one of the greatest comeback stories ever. Because when I started working with Joe, he fought in Manchester for $150,000. He's had 2 of the biggest paydays he's ever had. He's beat, I don't know what he beat in Deontay Wilder. I'm not too sure, but obviously probably Deontay was gone by then. But he beat the big Chinaman as well. And Joe was nowhere.
Joe got knocked out by Joe Joyce, and look what he is, and look what Joyce is right now.
It's incredible the turnaround in it all. And what excites me more than anything is the fighters that Queensbury, the heavyweights that they've got. They've got locked up the heavyweight division, and I still think to this day, I think the best heavyweight in America at the moment is Jarrell Miller. I think Jarrell Miller is the best heavyweight.
Why?
In America, I think
That is
Why?
insane much. That is
Why?
insane much.
No,
Yeah,
I don't
why?
know.
Tell us why.
I agree with you. I think he fought Daniel Dubois when he was possibly 3 stone, 4 stone overweight.
No. I know what you're saying. I was being sarcastic, but there's nothing over here in America in heavyweight division. So to be
No.
that's fine. I happen to agree with you, by the way.
Yeah, and Anderson will come back. When I first saw Anderson spar Tyson Fury, I thought it was the new kid on the block, 1,000,000%.
He doesn't have the right state of mind to be a fighter.
No, he's not interested. So
mentally, he's a joke. He's a joke.
and
You announce you're a prospect, and you announce 2-3 fights I'm going to retire. I don't really like boxing. Shut the fuck up, will you?
no, does
Seriously.
he? Doesn't. But we have a monster in England. We have a monster here.
Moses Atuma.
Correct. That's the kid is a freak of nature. He's not a big heavyweight particularly. He's a little bit like Mike Tyson, where he's got that just rips your head off power. But
right.
He's a very
the funny thing about him is, excuse me for interrupting, Spencer. The funny thing about it, everybody talks about his speed and his power. I'm impressed by 2 other things about him that nobody talks about. How his punch placement, he's so accurate, it's unbelievable. Nobody talks about that, and nobody talks about how high his ring IQ is.
Yeah, well, look, he's got a 3 and 4 punch combination that nobody seems to be able to work out, and he lands on the button nearly every time. And
that's what I mean.
Exactly what you just said. And I spoke to Tyson about him, and he said, "I just can't see anybody beating him. I can't see anybody." He just said,
"No."
Where he is, as long as he keeps it nice and slow, they're trying to rush him to break a record, which he will probably break it, because I think coming from Australia, I think he will fight Justice Hooney, and don't discount Justice Hooney in that fight. Don't discount him at all, because
does he have the chin to hold up against him?
Yeah, Hooney's got a good chin. Hooney's got a good chin,
and he's changed the way he's boxing. He's gone to his old trainer, I think, and he's boxing beautifully. And that's the only way to beat Moses Atuma, is boxing. If you go in there, if you're going to try and go in there and meet him head to head, you're going to come unstuck massively. I mean, the kid's been fighting men since he was 13 years of age, sparring big heavyweights since he was 13. Probably people don't know that.
Yeah, but the thing about a Hooney that I don't like I said before, he fights like a puncher and is really a boxer. And if he stuck to boxing, he'd be, I would consider him much better than he is. But he tries to be a puncher and he's not. And I think he's got to.
I think I think he's realised that, and he's changed. He's changed his style. I was speaking to Mick, and Mick said he's really firing. He's changed his style. It's like a new man, And don't forget, you've got another one there. You've got another one in Australia called Terra Moana.
Yeah. He's an up-and-comer.
It's a beast. That guy's a beast. And we've got a bit of an interest with Terra Moana, and a nice guy, good for boxing. I can see him coming up, but I don't think there's a better heavyweight in that side of the world, nowhere near Justice Hooney.
Spence, I'm going to be a bit more selfish here. What do you reckon of the state of Australian boxing right now?
I think you're on top of the world. And
wow.
I think I'm going to tell you something. I think it's a massive growth area. I think it's very progressive. What I saw in that show, I really liked. It was a different kind of show, with tables. The Aussies do it a bit different. They love a booze and the tables, but it looked fantastic. You've never done that in a week. A week's worth of promotion, and it's never happened before, has it? Mick hit it on the button. He took a chance. We all put some money in, and Turkey backed us, and he took a chance, and he done a marvellous job. If it can carry on like that, I can only see it being a growth area. I can only see it getting bigger, and I can see a lot of the boys who played rugby will possibly have a look at. They do box anyway, don't they? A lot of the Australian.
They do, yeah.
can see a lot of them taking it more seriously because the money will go up, and I think you'll create some stars. You've got natural, with the Islanders there as well. You've got some monstrous men who can be turned into heavyweights.
One of them just won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's from New South Wales, Bankstown, Sydney Bankstown. I just can't remember his name. Yeah, he just won it. He just won the Super Bowl. They're huge.
Huge. And I've seen some other fighters there, and I'm looking, thinking, wow, that's a physical specimen.
The NRL, National Rugby League, is filled with Islanders, and they constantly go toe-to-toe. Like when they throw them, they go toe-to-toe, and a lot of them do boxing outside that. So there's a lot of boxing cross.
You've had a lot of Islanders who've done very well in the boxing game.
Yeah.
And I
but
think
Mick spending the money spends. Mick Francis shows are not normal. He spends a crazy amount of money. So keep supporting him.
Yeah, look, we will keep supporting him. I'm doing a lot with Mick. I'm looking forward to doing more with him. And I think there'll be a big announcement soon as well.
Well, hopefully we can get a off-air sort of hint.
With Jay Opataya though, there's going to be some crazy fights out there for Jai. If he's going to move up to heavyweight, we don't know. He could go straight through he could go and do the bridgerweight and the heavyweight. There's a load of options. He could move down. I think a phenomenal fight would be Beterbiev.
Wow.
I like that fight, and I don't think Beterbiev even have a second thought about fighting Jai.
Oh no, he's not normal.
Yeah, I like Jai. I think that Beterbiev, his legs, as far as his legs at 40 years old, 41 years old, and with all the angles that Jai uses, I think that'll screw him right up. That's my opinion.
I'm exactly the same opinion. People say, no, Beterbiev will stop him. He'll break him down. I said,
no.
He won't.
No.
Actually, the bigger man
a fight that I think is not as good a fight because they're two high ring IQ guys, but I think Zora Ramirez and Jai are both slick left-handers that really can box very well and both use their feet very well. And I think that would be a high ring IQ fight. I don't think it'd be actually a great fight because of styles, but I think that they're two very. I think it's a much closer fight than a lot of people think it is.
I really like Ramirez, and I think that. You want to go again? Too late. Hold it. There you go. I think that Ramirez, for me, he boxes lovely, like you said, slick, a throwback fighter, looks like John Wayne, fights like a proper Mexican fighter. He dismantled the Englishman very easy, didn't he? It was child's play, really.
Yeah,
very easy.
Playage.
I hope. I know that fight will happen. I'm looking. I'm just looking at a few fantasy fights here, really, what I'd like to see. But that fight is definitely going to happen this year.
Spence, I want to take you back to the business. How does boxing reach a level of corporate commercialization like we're seeing in the UFC, where the big brands are coming back into the sport and supporting the sport, and we're seeing all these big brand deals? Because at the end of the day, we are boxing fans, right? But the business needs to survive, but it also needs to thrive with Turkey, beyond Turkey, and the only way for it to do that is by bringing in these big names that come in, they do their brand deals all around the world. Wherever you go, the commercialization is there.
I think that if Turkey pulled the plug, we'd be majorly in trouble. Not so much in England, maybe, but maybe everywhere else. I think he's the man who can bring in these big companies who want to do business with Saudi Arabia, who want to do business, in America. The trouble is, the good thing about us, we're a historical sport. We've been there forever. The UFC is is made up, and the culture is a young culture, isn't it? You know, the boxing fan, the purist is an older man. He's 35 to 60 to 70. He's been in it all his life. So we've got to try and now grab the youngsters, you know, and try and grab the youngsters through whatever we need to do. I don't know. I mean, he's looking at. You've just had the video game, haven't you? The new video game out.
Undisputed,
that was great. I think you know, Turkey's bringing another video game out, but unfortunately, the UFC, they've got a very young audience who are not necessarily affluent and wealthy, but they will pay. They've got enough money to go and pay and see the UFC. So it's a middleman sport. Boxing, if you want the best of the best in boxing, you've got to pay for your nose.
Absolutely.
Ticket price is expensive. A night out's expensive. Whereas, you know, everything's relative in the UFC. It's affordable.
But Spence, you know why I believe that's the case with the UFC is because Dana White constantly evolves. He brings in these influencers. He brings in these people, these important figures in pop culture. He reads the room a lot better than what we do in boxing.
Yeah,
he captures that young audience.
And that's what I said. You've got to. I'm not too sure how we capture the young audience. Are we too far gone to capture the young audience? You know, what we do seem to have is we seem to have some real characters in boxing. Some real characters, and I don't think that applies in the UFC. The last, you know, they've got, you know, Conor McGregor. That was their main character, wasn't it?
Yeah.
John Jones. They had a few before that, but you know, with the massive onslaught of the Russian and sort of we haven't got that anymore, have we? They don't relate so much to the fans, in my opinion.
I think three problems. I think with three problems with America is that the public thinks that boxers are our street urchins, are the death of society. Number one, I think that's hurt the sport a lot. I think that they look at the Don Kings and the Bob Arums almost like gangsters instead of businessmen. And that's hurt us with corporate America. And the third thing that's hurt us with the general public and corporate America is lousy decisions. People watch a fight, they know who they won, and then the other guy gets his hand raised. Not a good fucking thing there.
Problem in that we got a major problem with that in the sport. That's probably one of our biggest problems in our sport. Simple as that. They seem to have stolen a march on us, the UFC. And I'm hoping that he and Turkey Al-Sheikh do revolutionise boxing to some extent with this league and with the other stuff they're doing. Why not? Why not?
Absolutely.
Why are we stuck in this time warp? This revolution turn it into something else.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion on that, Rick?
I hope you're correct. I hope you're absolutely correct. I believe that boxing needs to have a transformation in this country. We are so far behind the UK in boxing now, as far as the crowds and the public awareness, and Japan's way ahead of us. I mean, they forget about a Nui over there. They're putting on they put on three of those world title fights at one show. They've drawn 18,000 people. The only way we draw 18,000 people is we have one mega fight on the card, like a Canelo and a whoever. Then we draw 20,000 people. But Anui's drawn 35 to 55,000 people when he fights.
Like I say, in America, in England, like I said, we have. I don't know how many shows we have every week, but we have shows constantly every week, and we maybe have a big show every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And they're selling. People are going, and this country's in a terrible state at the moment financially. We're right down there. but boxing surviving. And the UFC, they only come here once a year, so maybe once or twice a year they come here. So
they're like Formula One.
Yeah, they come here. The circus comes to town, and it's sold out immediately, and we've got to make some changes. We have to make some changes, and the people at the top have got to do that. And I think Turkey Al Sheikh's probably the man to make the changes. He went and bought the belt, shrewd move. Bought the Ring magazine, which he loves. It's a big thing with him. It's his baby. So, if anybody can do it with the team in America and the team we got in England, because please believe me, they are pushing. After Saturday night, Monday morning, we've got another 3 heavyweights fighting. All world-class heavyweights got announced on the Monday.
Wow.
Never seen before. Seen before.
Absolutely. And one thing not to overlook as well, the digital ecosystem, boxing ecosystem in the UK is ahead of the US. There's so many media outlets in the UK that are covering the sport. It's crazy. Like they're popping up weekly.
I would have said between 20 and 50 outlets.
Yeah, I remember when IFL TV first started, and you'd hear what's his name, that young fella, Coogan. Yes, Coogan. He was almost concentrated on Eddie Hearn in the early days. He was like Eddie's exclusives, Eddie's breaking news, and then all of a sudden they just popped. Bang, all these other outlets started popping. That's not happening in the US. That's the problem. Dana White, the UFC, built their company on these digital ecosystems that gave them a bypass around traditional media outlets. And in the US, unfortunately, it hasn't really got there. Even though there's a few outlets. Now we've got ProBox TV coming in, doing a ton of work with 8 talk shows a week and shows now moving around the country and so on and so on. But they need the support as well. The more the merrier.
Well, what surprised us a bit when we went to Australia, the English followed us. Some of the English outlets went straight out there, and I tell you, I've got a big memorabilia company. I own a big memorabilia company, and it's a microsystem to see who's popular. You see who's popular because the gloves sell and etc. Yeah. Jay Pattaya over here is a bigger star than in Australia. How's that? How does that work?
I'll tell you how that works, because Foxtel has no limit, only covers their fighters, and they had a media monopoly. And Jai was the best fighter in the world, and you couldn't get him on the front page.
How wrong is that? How wrong is that?
I had him on this same show. He got over 50,000 views on Facebook alone. I was getting hit up from every single outlet, Papua New Guinea, all these islands around Australia were calling me and asking me if we can use it. On Facebook alone, his interview got that.
And it's a shame as well. I mean, he walks around England, he's taking pictures all the time. I've walked around with him. He said, I can't believe this, mate. I can't believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said, nobody even asked who I am.
It's crazy. It's because of the media monopoly.
He's the best cruiserweight in the world.
Easily. Last one from me. Barry Hearn went on TalkSport yesterday and said that there's going to be a fight coming up between Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. I don't want to ask you about Tyson Fury, but how much truth is there to that?
Well, Barry Hearn must be, I don't know, but Barry Hearn, he must be living with him or something. And they're talking every day, him and Barry. Look, Barry made some very valiant points, but it's as simple as this. Tyson, in the next year, next 6 or 7 months, is extremely busy, right? We're actually coming to Australia and New Zealand to do a tour. Talking a night with Tyson Fury. So he's got 2 TV series. He's spending time with his lovely family and his lovely wife, and he's getting to know him a bit more. He's got kids there he doesn't even know properly. So, he's struggling to remember their names. So he's okay. He came round here yesterday or the day before. He's great. He's happy. I didn't ask him or broach the, are you fighting again? I didn't want to ask him. What's the point? He is retired. But with anything in life, Rick will tell you that if he's got a jacket and he's his best jacket he's ever had in his life, he will never sell it. If the right bid comes along, he's going to sell his jacket, isn't he? It's as simple as that.
There you go.
Listen,
it's
Spence, he's got an unbelievable. I've met the guy on a couple occasions, and he's got an unbelievable personality. One of a kind. He can light up a room, and he's just one of those rare, unique individuals. And if he comes back a year from now, there'll be more interest than if he was fighting right now.
Thank you, Rick.
He's the greatest heavyweight of our generation, easily.
Yeah, Spence.
Sorry, go on, Rick.
No, continue. I'm sorry.
What I was going to say about Tyson is, boxing is going to be a very, very sad sport without him, because he was, no matter what you say about him, this, that, and the other, he was the pinnacle of our sport. If he said he was fighting, you could sell a stadium out 100,000 people in a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
What he done for mental health was exceptional. I've seen him save people's lives. He never says no to anybody. If he I know at the weekend, a young girl was very, very ill. I said, Tyson, we need to do something. No problem. He done it. What you don't know about Tyson is he does a lot for charity. Nobody even knows. Nobody even knows what he does, which I know because I've seen the checks being written. I've seen what he does. So, he does a lot for charity. But sometimes in life, you've got to look after your own, haven't you? You have to look after your own, and you have to spend time with your own family. I don't think it's the last we're going to see of Tyson Fury, whether it's in a boxing ring or whether he's promoter or whatever he's going to be. But it's certainly not the last we see of him. And we need people like him in the sport. We've got to have them. And this is why the sport is where it's at.
Absolutely.
I'd rather listen to him than Eddie Hearn.
Well, you get the same thing out of Eddie every time, don't you? He's a master. He's a master, the best I've ever seen. He can talk a glass right to sleep. He's unbelievable. I love sitting there having a banter with him because he's that good.
Somebody told me recently they just got off the phone with Eddie Hearn. I said, stop complaining.
But what you can't take away from him is he's got big old balls and he can talk a glass tight to sleep. He's very, very good at his business. He's the best.
Wow.
Go to Frank Warren. Again, just incredible. They've got it down to a T. You can't buy what they got.
There you go. Very, very interesting. Spence, you've been very generous with your time. It's the longest show we've ever done, 1 hour and 3 minutes, actually.
Oh, well done. I've enjoyed it. I was speaking to you and Rick. He's a legend.
Thank you. I like to thank you. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah, lovely. And thanks to everybody.
Before
what's that? What was that?
Sorry,
I think I talked to everybody because people call me in the middle of the night when they're lonely because I advertise myself as 24/7, 365. So if they're fighting with their wife, they call me.
All right, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Spence, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Rick, once again, also thank you very much.
I'd like to do this once a month, to be honest with you, Spence. Wow. If you got the time, it would be great to do it once a month. I think we all jive very well, and I think it would be a great, asset to all of us.
Yeah, no problem. Whatever you want to do, just ring me. But I'll ring me tonight, and I'll answer the phone, Rick.
You got it. Thank you very much.
There you go, gentlemen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all that have tuned in. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you all.